Good day, grade 10 learners. Welcome to our mathematics lesson. I am Skolile Ncube, and this lesson is proudly brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education. Right, let's start our lesson, grade 10s. What are we going to learn about today? We're going to learn about the cosine graph, and we're going to look at the effect of A and Q. Okay, right. Let's be ready for the lesson, grade 10. Let's be ready for our lesson. Make sure that our books are ready. We have our pen, pencils, and calculators. We're going to be sketching graphs. We're going to be interpreting graphs. Let's make sure that we move together. Remember, grade 10s, what is our WhatsApp number? 079 454 9535. 079 454 9535. We're engaging each other during the lesson. Remember that, okay? Right. And don't just sit there and listen. You have to be doing your work. And if I'm moving fast, you have the right to tell me, say, you're moving fast, slow down. I didn't understand this. Can you explain it again? I will do that because I want all of you to understand what we're going to be learning today, isn't it? Right. Let's start our lesson. Are you ready? Okay. Right. So at the end of this lesson, you should be knowing the effect of A and Q on the cosine graph, on the graph of the form f of x is equals to A. Do you see the A there? The coefficient of cos x and then plus Q. Now you should be familiar about the effect of what? Of Q. What does it do? Do you know that? It's not going to be different from what you have been talking about with the sine graph and the other algebraic functions, okay? Right. We're going to interpret graphs based on the observations of A and Q. That's what we're going to do in today's lesson. Right. We have done these concepts. We're going to use them in today's lesson. Right. Let's start with our baseline, grade 10s. I want to see if you still remember how to sketch what? A cosine graph. But I'm going to make it easy for you because we're going to do this together and then I'll give you the points. Then you just do the plotting so that we can move a bit faster, isn't it? Now we know how to plot. So let's do the table together. Right. Let's start with when x is equals to 0. What do we do? When x is equals to 0. So let's enter cos. Press cos. Now you have something like this. And then you have your bracket here. And then what we do? Enter 0. And then close your bracket. Even sometimes without closing the bracket, the calculator will give you the answer. What is cos 0? What do you get? Cos 0. Let's see what I'm getting. I know I must get 1. Okay. Yes, it is 1. It is 1. Okay. Cos 0 is equals 1. Okay. Right. Don't worry. I'll give you time to sketch your Cartesian plane. Now, I want us to just go to our calculators. Okay. And then I'll give you time to draw your Cartesian plane and even the table. I'll give you enough time. Don't worry about that now. Okay. Right. Let's go to cos 90. Cos 90 degrees. Sorry, this should be degrees. Cos 90 degrees. What is it? Enter it in your calculator. It is 0. Okay. Cos 90 degrees is 0. And then cos 180 degrees, what is it? You must get negative 1. Are you getting negative 1? Just use your calculator. Don't write anything. I'll give you time to write. Negative 1. And then what about cos 270 degrees? What is it? It is 0, isn't it? Yes, it is 0. And then cos, the last one, cos 360 degrees, because our domain says from 0 to 360 degrees. So it's going to be 1. Do you see that? Okay. Right. Now I'm going to give you the time to sketch the Cartesian plane. This is our table. And then this is our Cartesian plane. Remember that when you're drawing the Cartesian plane, you don't need to draw the grid. Okay. Just like this, it is fine. Make it bigger enough because we're going to draw several graphs on this Cartesian plane. Make sure it's big enough, maybe a quarter of a page. Okay, make sure that it's big enough. Don't make it small, so that you can draw your graph nicely and neatly. Okay, right. And then we just need this. This is 0, 1, 2, 3. Then negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Make it bigger so that our graphs are neat. and then 90 degrees there, we have 0 degrees there, 180 degrees there, 270 degrees there, and then 360 degrees there. This is our x or theta, and then this is our y. Okay, right, just that is enough. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. These 5 minutes, I want you to draw the Cartesian plane, and then you plot these points, these 5 points, and then you sketch your graph after that. Okay, right, for 5 minutes. Let's try. Welcome back, cretins. I think I gave you enough time to sketch the graph, isn't it? Remember our WhatsApp line 079 Right, let's plot our points together. Cretins, this is very, very important for you to be able to what? To know the key features of this parent graph. Okay, what is the maximum value or the coordinates of the maximum point? Where do we find the x-intercepts? Where do we find the minimum point? So that when we're doing the shifting now, the transformations, it becomes very easy for you to understand, isn't it? Right, so now this is our first point here where it is 0 and 1. That is the y-intercept. You see that? And again, you see that it is our maximum point there for this graph. Okay, and then this is our x-intercept. 90, at 90 the graph of cos x is 0. At 90 degrees, sorry, at 90 degrees the graph of cos x is what? Is 0. At 0 cos x is at 1. Okay, at 90 degrees it is 0. At 180 degrees the graph of cos x is at -1. Remember that. You have to remember those things. And then at 270 it is 0. Okay, just these 5 points, cretins, remember them. And then at 360 the graph is at 1. Do you see that? Okay, I'm not sure if you can see those 5 points here. There's a point here, there, see, there, and there. Okay, and then we can sketch our graph of f, which is this graph. Do you see that? Now I want you to sketch this graph. This graph, it should be like this. Looks like a straight line, these things. So the graph should be curved like, do you see that? Okay, and then it should go like this, and then like this. You see that? It should be curved like that. Okay, this is not a straight line there. Please make sure that you do that. Okay, correct that. It should be curved like this, and then curved like that, like a wave. You know, a wave. It should be like that. Okay, right. And then let me give you 1 minute to make corrections, then we move on. 1 minute. Okay, welcome back, cretins. I hope you have managed to make corrections and your graph is now neat. Right, use your pencil so that if you make a mistake, you can what? You can erase, okay? Right, determine the amplitude of f. Okay, I want us to do this together so that we can move a bit fast. In the range of f, what is the amplitude of f, and then what is the range of f? Right, let's go straight to the answers. Then I'll give you time, 1 minute to write your notes. Okay, right, let's go to the answers. So the amplitude, how do we find amplitude? Right, if you check here, this is the maximum value here, which is 1, and then here this is the minimum value for f of x, isn't it? Right, so we say maximum value minus the minimum value divided by 2. Okay, like this. You see that? So it's going to be 1, which is the maximum value, minus -1, which is the minimum value, divided by 2. And then 1 minus -1 is like 1 plus 1, which is 2. And then 2 over 2, which is what? Which is 1. So our amplitude is 1. Remember, this is how we find the amplitude. Maximum value minus the minimum value divided by 2. We did that when we're looking at the sine graph. Okay, right. So the A here is 1. What about the range? the y values are from which y value to which y value. If you check, our graph is between these, or it's not between because they are included. So it's from -1 up to 1. You see that? -1 is the minimum here, and then 1 is the maximum. Okay, so it means the minimum is -1, the maximum is 1. So the y values are between the from -1 to 1. So that's the range. So this is how we write the range. Y is greater than or equals to -1. So -1 is included, and less than or equals to 1. That's an interval. Y is greater than or equals to -1, and then y is also less than 1. So this is the range. In interval notation, you can write it like this. And then this is our domain. What am I saying? This is our amplitude. Okay, because I talked about range now. Okay, right. This is our amplitude. So this is how we write the amplitude for this graph and the range for this graph. 1 minute to write your notes, the range and the amplitude. 1 minute. Right, welcome back. I hope you managed to write your notes there. Let's move on to the next part of our lesson. Now, we managed to draw the graph of f of x is equals to cos x, which is this graph here, f that you see here, okay? So don't erase or don't draw another Cartesian plane. We have to use the Cartesian plane and the graph that we have there. We're going to draw this graph there on that Cartesian plane, and then it will be easy to compare, for us to compare those two, isn't it? Now we're going to sketch the graph of g of x is equals to 2 cos x. What's the difference between g of x and f of x? What is the difference? F of x is like this. What is the difference between this and this? Now there is what? There is a 2. The coefficient of cos x is now 2. Okay? Here, the coefficient of cos x is 1. Here, the coefficient of cos x is 2, isn't it? Now, let's sketch the graph of g of x. And then I have put the table for us there so that we don't waste time. And then you are now just sketching. And then after that, we're going to discuss. I'm going to give you 3 minutes for you to sketch the graph of g of x. Let's do it. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. What type of a graph did you find? Did you get? Let's see, let's do it together. 0, 2, 0, 2. Now we know, I assume that you know now how to get your ordered pairs, isn't it? Your X and Y. 0, 2, 90, 0, like that, okay? So 0, 2, this is our point there. You see that? 0, 2, and then 90, 0, which is here. The blue dots there. Do you see the blue dots? And then 180 negative 2 is there. And then 270 is there. And then 360 degrees 2 there is there. Do you see that? Okay. And then this is our graph of G. What has happened to the graph of f of x to form the graph of g of x? Okay, here is 1, sorry, here is 2, and then there is 1. It's like there's someone who just held the f of x graph at the top and then the bottom, then it's stretched vertically like that. You see that? Like you pulled it. You see? So the graph is stretched vertically. So now, okay, before we move on to discuss our key features, I'm going to give you 1 minute to sketch your graph neatly. Now you have a correct picture here. Okay, correct your f of x. Oh, f of x, we have it. We corrected it. Now, correct your g of x if you got it wrong. But if you got it right, it's perfect. You can even go ahead and start looking at things like the range and the amplitude and see if you can get them. Those who are doing corrections, let's draw our graph of g of x correctly. Remember our WhatsApp line grade 10s, 079 454 9535. Just 1 minute. Let's do our corrections. Welcome back, grade 10s. Welcome back. Now let's discuss. Now, what did you see? What can you say about the amplitude of G and also the range of G? The blue graph. What is the amplitude and what is the range? Can I give you 1 minute for you to answer that before we move on? Just 1 minute, answer these two questions, then I'll give you the answers after that. How are you, grade 10s? I hope you are managing there. It's quiet, no question, no what. Do you understand, grade 10s? Please feel free. 079 454 9535. Okay, if there's something you don't understand that we have covered here, I will manage to go back. Please feel free to ask, and then I'll go back and re-explain. Okay, right. 079 454 9535. Right, so now the amplitude, we said it is the maximum. So for g of x here, the maximum is 2, and then the minimum is negative 2. Do you see that? So it's going to be negative 2 sorry, it's going to be 2 minus negative 2, which is 2 plus 2, isn't it? And then 4, and then divided by 2, remember, okay? And then we're going to get our answer like this. This is the amplitude for g of x. Remember, this is our amplitude for f. I just left it there so that you can easily compare. If you look at this, you can see that there is some connection between the amplitude and the a value. Do you see that? Because here we have an invisible one here. You see that? The amplitude is 1. And then there A is 1. And then here the amplitude is 2. And then A there is 2. But I want you to take note of that, of this. Right, the A value here can be negative. Let's say, for example, it can be m of x is equal to negative 2 cos x. Please don't say that the amplitude when it's like this is negative 2. Amplitude is the distance, isn't it? So you just ignore the sign and say the amplitude is 2. So the amplitude is always positive, but your a can be negative, isn't it? Okay, please take note of that. Okay, so if a is greater than 0, then the amplitude is equals to a. But if a is less than 0, for the amplitude, just take the magnitude of that value and ignore the sign. Amplitude is always positive. Okay, amplitude is always positive. Don't forget that. But there is a connection between the amplitude and the value of a. Remember that, okay? Right. Okay, now the range here, this is the range. So for f of x, we talked about this. We say the range is from negative 1 to 1. But what about g of x? It is from negative 2 here, you see, because this is the minimum, this is the maximum. So it's from negative 2 up to 2. That's the range, from negative 2 up to 2. Is there any connection between the range and what? And the a value? There is a connection. Do you see that? There is a connection. So we can say that for our range, we can say that is from negative a up to a. So y is greater than negative a, greater than or equals to negative a, but less than or equals to a. Okay, let me put it in a simpler way. It is from negative a up to a. This is an interval. And then this is how you write your interval. Okay, please, if there are any questions, send them 079 454 9535. Okay, right. For this type of a graph, this is how you can do the range. We're going to see now when we look at the effect of Q. This is also going to change, isn't it? When now there's the Q, when it says plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, what is going to happen? Okay, right. Now, the following are the graphs of f of x. Looks clumsy, isn't it? But you should be able to interpret the graphs, because sometimes you're given these graphs like this, and then you have to be able to see the graphs. Right, this is f of x, and then g of x, h of x, and m of x. There are 4 graphs here, and try to link them with using their color codes there. So I want us to do this. Comment on the amplitudes of the 4 graphs. Okay, I want you to look at these 4 graphs and just discuss on your own there. Discuss about the amplitudes of these 4 graphs, and then after that we're going to discuss together. Okay, now let me give you 1 minute to do that. Let's do it. Right, welcome back. What did you get? For f of x, what is our amplitude? For f of x, let me just write at the top. I'll write the values at the top. Okay. For f of x, amplitude is equals to what? It is equals to 1, isn't it? The maximum here is 1. The minimum is -1. If you say 1 minus -1, which is 1 plus 1 divided by 2, you're getting 1. Do you see that there's a connection between the amplitude and the value of A? Okay, let's go to the blue graph. The maximum is 2. What is the minimum? -2. What is 2 minus -2? That is 2 plus 2, which is 4. Then 4 divided by 2 is 2. Do you see that the amplitude is 2? And then there's a connection between the amplitude here and what? And the value of A here. The A is the coefficient of cos x. Let's go to the purple graph, which is h of x. The maximum is 3. The minimum is -3. Do you see that I'm reading from here? You see that this is our -3. So the minimum is -3. What is 3 minus -3? 3 minus -3 is like 3 plus 3, isn't it? And then 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the amplitude is 3. You see that? And then it's also the same there as the coefficient of cos x there. Do you see that as the A? M of x is a bit different, you see. Now A is -1 if you check there. But is amplitude going to be -1? Let's check. The maximum here is this one here, which is 1. And then the minimum here is -1. So still the maximum is 1 and the minimum is -1. So you are saying 1 minus -1, which is 2. And then 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the amplitude is 1. Do you see that? So the amplitude is always positive. Even if A is negative, the amplitude is always positive. Do you see that? Very good. Very good. Now, now we can connect the amplitude to the value of A, and we have seen the effect of A. It stretches the graph vertically. If it increases, the graph is stretched vertically like that. So the amplitude is affected, the maximum value and the minimum value. We're going to talk about that one later. Okay, right. Now, there's something else I want you to see here, but I'm just going to show you because of time. Now, comment on the, we've done that. So for the graph of f of x is equals to a cos x plus q, a amplitude is equals to a if a is greater than 0. Okay, right. We want to see f and m. F is the black graph here, and then m is the red graph. Do you see anything here? Let me highlight the equations. F of x is equals to cos x, and then m of x is equals to negative cos x here. What do you recognize if you look at those two graphs, the red graph and the black graph? Okay, let me remove the other graph so that we just look at these two. All right, let me do that. Right, we're left with these ones. What do you see? These two graphs. It's like the other one is a reflection of the other, isn't it? We have a line of reflection here, which is like the mirror. So we're saying the graph of M is a reflection of F about the x-axis. The x-axis is the mirror. Remember that if f of x becomes negative f of x, then that's a reflection about the x-axis. It's a reflection about the x-axis. If you check here, this is cos x here, and then here is negative cos x. That's a reflection about the x-axis. Another effect of A. If A changes from being positive to become negative, it becomes a reflection about the x-axis. Okay, let me just give you what? Give you 1 minute to write your short notes. Don't write everything on the slides. That's just short notes for 1 minute. Well done, cretins. Remember to send us your questions or even your input. 079 Okay? Right. Now, we have talked about the effect of A. Remember, our lesson is about the effect of A and the effect of Q. Now, let's go to the effect of Q. Right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to sketch this Cartesian plane and the graph of F. Maybe 2 minutes is too short. Let's have 3 minutes, okay? 3 minutes, you draw a new Cartesian plane now. Okay, leave the old one where we're dealing with what? The effect of A. Now we're going to Q. Draw the new Cartesian plane, which is this one, and the graph of F must be there, which is the graph of F, which is this one. Okay, so 3 minutes, let's do that. And then after 3 minutes, I'm going to be sketching the graphs, then you copy because of time, isn't it? I'll sketch the graph, then you copy, then we discuss the key features, okay? Let's have our 3 minutes, and then we do the work. Right, welcome back, Cretans. I hope you managed to draw the Cartesian plane and our graph of f of x. Right, now we're going to draw the other graphs here, g of x and h of x. I'll do that, and then after that, you what? You copy the graphs, okay? Just listen for now, then I'll give you time to copy. Right, now this is g of x, 0, 2, it will be here. 90 degrees and 1, it should be here. 180 and 0, it should be here on the x-axis. 270 and 1, it should be there. Then 360 and 2, it should be there. And then that is the graph of g of x. Okay, where is it? Yes, g of x there. Then let's have our h of x. Please label your graphs. Make sure that you name them correctly. And then h of x, we have 0 degrees and -1 should be here. 90 degrees and -2, it should be here. 180 degrees and -3, it should be here. Then 270 and -2, it should be here. Then 360 and -1, it should be here. And then we sketch our graph of h of x, which is this. I'm going to add another graph because I want us to have more graphs to compare with, okay? So I'm going to add this one, m of x, which is cos x plus 2, cos x plus 2. So this one, cos x plus 2, I'm going to be adding 2 to my parent graph, which is f of x. I'm going to add, every point is moving up by 2 units. So I'm going to add 2. This one is going to be 3. 90 will go with 90 is 0. 90 plus 0 plus 2 is 2. And then -1 plus 2 is going to be +1. So everything goes up by 2 units like that. So this is the graph of m of x, okay? Now we have our 4 graphs. I want you to draw these 4 graphs in what? In 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Just copy the graphs, and then after 2 minutes, we're going to start discussing, okay? Right, welcome back. Now let's start our discussion. We're going to discover on interesting things about the value of Q and A. We're going to discover something interesting that will assist you a lot in answering these questions, okay? Right, now let's start with the maximum values. Let's start with the maximum values, okay? Let's start with the graph of g of x, the green one. What is the maximum value? You see here, this is the maximum point here and the maximum point there. So the maximum value is 2. Okay, but before we go to g, I want us to look even at f of x. The maximum value for f of x is 1 here. The maximum value there is 1. Do you see that this graph here is the maximum value at 1? Okay, y is equal to 1 there. Right, remember here, the value of a is 1, and then the value of q is 0, isn't it? Right. Now, can we get the maximum value from our value of a and value of q? Is it possible? Okay, let's see. If you say 1 plus 0, what do you get? 1 plus 0, what do you get? You're getting 1. Do you see that? So a plus q will give us our maximum value. A plus Q will give us our maximum value. Okay, let's see. Let's not conclude now. We have to see if it's going to be applicable to all these 4 graphs. Okay, let's check G of X. What is the maximum? 2. What is the maximum? 2 there. Right. Now, the maximum value is 2. Now, the coefficient of cos X here is 1. So, if we say 1 plus 1, do we get 2? It agrees. A plus Q will give us the maximum value. A plus Q will give us the maximum value. Do you see that? Okay. Right. Let's go to h of x. Let's see. Let's use our generalization now. We said a plus q will give us maximum value. Let's say 1 plus negative 2. What is 1 plus negative 2? It's like 1 minus 2. What is 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So is our maximum value negative 1 for the red graph? Let's check. Yeah, it's there. Yes, the maximum value is negative 1. So a plus q is working. A plus q will give us the maximum value. Do you see that? Let's do the last one. G of x. The maximum value is 3. You see that? The highest, maximum is the highest value of the graph. So it means if we say 1 plus 2, will it give us the maximum value? Yes, give us the maximum value, which is 3. So now we can see that the maximum value here for this graph is going to be a plus q. A plus q. Right. I'm going to give you 1 minute to copy. Just make sure that you don't write everything that you see. Just short notes. Short notes that can be understood maybe by you, because these are your notes. Okay. Let's do it for 1 minute. Well done, Cretans. This generalization, I forgot to tell you, will help us if a is greater than 0. Okay, if a is greater than 0, then this generalization will help us a lot in finding the maximum value and the minimum value. Okay, right. Now, let's go to the minimum value. Can we generalize also? Let's see. Let's start with f of x. Remember here the coefficient of cos x is 1, and then our q value is 0. So now, but we're getting negative 1. How do we get negative 1 for the minimum value? Okay, is it possible to get negative 1 from 0? Unless if we say negative a. If we say negative 1 plus 0, what do we get? We're getting negative 1. So we're saying negative 1, negative a plus 0, negative a plus q. Will it give us the minimum value? Okay, let's see if the other graphs are going to give us the same thing. Right, so here the minimum value for this one is this one. For the black graph is negative 1. Let's go to the green graph. The minimum value is here. It's 0. Right, so the coefficient of cos x is 1. If we say negative 1 plus 1, what do we get? Negative 1 plus 1. We're getting 0. Do you see that? So it's negative a plus q. Negative a plus q will give us the minimum value. Negative a plus q will give us what? The minimum value. Okay. Let's go to the red graph. The minimum value is at negative 3 here. And then here there's a 1. If you say negative 1 minus 2, what do you get? Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. Do you see that? So negative a plus q. Okay, because here we're saying, sorry, the negative here is plus negative 2. Take note of that, because q here is negative 2. So plus negative 2 means it's negative 2, isn't it? So negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. So negative a plus q will give us the minimum value. And then here also there's a 1 here, invisible 1. So what is the minimum value for the blue graph? It is 1. So if you say negative 1 plus 2, what do we get? Do you see that we say negative 1 plus 2, we're getting 1. So now negative a plus q will give us the minimum value. So for the graph of this function, f of x equals to a cos x plus q, our minimum value can be derived from this. We can say negative a plus q if a is greater than 0. Okay, right? So it's negative a plus q. Now we have generalized how we can find our minimum value and our maximum value. Remember, we said the maximum value is going to be a plus q, and then this is the maximum. And then the minimum value is going to be negative a plus q. Now we need to just have 1 minute. We write short notes, and then after 1 minute, we're going to discuss the range, and I think we'll just end by the range there. Okay, just 1 minute, write your short notes. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. Remember, let's go to the range now. Remember the range, we're saying it is from the minimum value up to the maximum value, isn't it? Your range is from the minimum value up to the maximum value. Now we know how we can get our maximum value from a and q. We know how we can get our minimum value from a and q, isn't it? Okay, if a is greater than 0. Okay, right, we're going to do reflections later. Okay, we're going to do reflections later. Okay, now let's just concentrate on the effect of a and q, and then we'll look at the reflections in the other lessons. Right. Comment on the ranges of the 4 graphs. I won't give you time to discuss. Let's just go straight to the answers that I have to give you. Okay, we have our graphs. Okay, the same graphs that we have, we're using them. Right, now the range. The range for the black graph is from negative 1 up to 1 here. Negative 1 up to 1 here. You see that? And remember how we got our negative 1. The minimum value, we said it is minus a plus q. Minus a plus q will give us negative 1. And then a plus q will give us our maximum value, which is 1. Okay, so negative 1 plus 0 is negative 1, and then 1 plus 0 is 1. Okay, I want you to try and use what we have learned now to find the range for g of x. Minimum value is negative 1 plus q, maximum value is a plus q. Okay, so our a here is 1. So what will be the minimum value for g of x? Negative 1 plus 1, which is 0. And then the maximum is 1 plus 1, which is 2. Okay, and if you check the graph, the minimum is 0 and the maximum is 2. The range, okay, the y values are from 0 to positive 2. That's the range. You see that? So this one is coming from negative a plus 1. And then this one, 2, is coming from a plus 1, which is 2. Negative 1 plus 1, which is 0. And then 1 plus 1, which is 2. Okay? Right. And then this one here is going to be, you can also be able to interpret from the graph. Sometimes you don't even need to use these complicated things. Just go straight to the graph. If you check the red graph here, the range is between, or is from, sorry, I always use between. Is from, because negative 3 is included, negative 1 is included. So the range here is from negative 3 up to 1. So it means y is greater than or equals to negative 3, but less than or equals to negative 1. You see that I'm trying to bring all these methods that can assist us answer these questions, isn't it? Okay, so it's not one way, not one approach. We have to be able to use all these methods to answer our questions. Okay, right. You can easily do this by looking at the graphs without even using this thing of saying negative 1 plus q or a plus q. If you look at the graph, what is the minimum? Is negative 3. If you look at the graph, what is the maximum? Is negative 1. So it means the range is from negative 3 up to negative 1. Just as simple as that, okay? But let's say they've given you an equation without the graph. Then you can use this method of saying negative a plus q to give us the minimum, and then a plus q to give us the maximum, okay? Right, so I'm trying to incorporate all these methods into one thing. So you see that that's our range. And then the blue graph again, the minimum is 1, and then it goes up to the maximum, which is 3 here. So it means what is range here? Y is from 1 up to 3. Y is from 1 up to 3. So y is greater than or equals to 1, but less than or equals to 3. And then our generalization is that for this graph, our range is going to be this, okay? Let me give you 1 minute to copy, just to write your short notes. And then after that minute, we are going to what? We are going to conclude our lesson. Let's do it for 1 minute.
The road to success is to commit to yourself. In order for you to become who you want to become as a student, you need to commit to reading your books, to studying, to bettering yourself. I know it's not going to be easy. Actually, no one said it's going to be easy. But if you put in the work, the results will show in your life. Tap into your power. Sometimes you will feel like putting away your books, and not reading as much as you're supposed to be. But I want you to commit, because through commitment, there is infinite power.
I really hope you have learned something. We've looked at the effect of A. A affects the amplitude. Did you see that? And then Q is for vertical shift. If Q is positive, the graph is shifted upwards by Q units. If Q is negative, the graph is shifted downwards by Q units. Q units can be 2, it can be 3, isn't it? If it's negative 3, it will move down by 3 units. If it's positive 3, it will go up by 3 units. We're talking about our parent graph, which is f of x is equals to a cos x, okay? Right. Now, and then we say that the maximum value, we can get it by saying a plus q Please take note here, we're talking about A being positive, A, when A is greater than 0. And then the minimum value will be negative A plus Q, negative A plus Q, it should be plus Q here, but Q can be negative, like negative 3, isn't it? If you say plus, negative gives you negative, okay? Right, should be plus Q there. And then the amplitude of f of x equals to a cos x plus q is a, but remember, a amplitude is always positive. Even if your a is negative 3, your amplitude is going to be 3, not negative 3. And then the period for the graph, remember the period is 360 degrees. You must know the periods for these three graphs. The sine x graph, 360 degrees, the period. Cos x graph, 360 degrees. Tan x graph, 180 degrees. That's the period. And then now we know how to get our minimum and maximum. We can use it for our range here. So our range will be generalized to this, negative a plus q up to a plus q. That's what we learned in today's lesson. Grade 10s, I'm really hoping that you learned something and you're going to enjoy the rest of your day. Let's meet in our next lesson. Goodbye.